All right, today in class, I ended by asking you this question, and it's kind of a challenging Fermi question. And so, what does Maine look like? I don't know, something like this. And there's a couple of things we need to know. One, we need to know how big Maine is. And in class, I made some estimates based on personal experiences. I know that from where we are now, it's about 150 miles to Bethel, which is on the border of Maine and New Hampshire, and it's about 100 or so to Machias. So I'm estimating about 250 miles across. And from top to bottom, well, the interstate puts Old Town at 193, and that's a mile marker from the border between southern Maine and New Hampshire. So, that's not a straight line north and south, but maybe 400 miles, because Bangor and Old Town to me seem about halfway north to south. So these aren't meant to be correct. I'll tell you the correct ones in a little bit. But rather, they're based on my experiences, based on what I know about my surroundings. I can explain these numbers and why I came to them. We're halfway up. It's about 200 miles to the southern border, so maybe it's another 200 miles north. Okay. So what is that giving me for area? Well, I think what I'll do is actually convert these to feet. So 400 miles times 5,280 feet per mile times 250 miles times 5,280 feet per mile. This is going to give me the number of square feet in Maine. Need to grab the calculator. All right, let's do that. So I have 400 times 5280 times 250 times 5280 gives me a really big number. So it's let's just say 2.8 times 10 to the 12th power. Or you could write this as 28 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and put a 0 in all those empty spaces. But these numbers can be a little unwieldy to use. And again, notice, right, millions, billions, trillions, 10 to the 12 trillions. So we have 2 trillion square feet. Well, how do I use that to find trees? Well, if I'm standing in the woods, and there are trees, of course, all around me, I just have to think about a typical walk in the woods. And based on my experience, if you're in the woods, you can usually touch a tree. Not always, but I'm going to say that if I were in a patch that was 3 feet by 3 feet, I would expect at least one tree. Between 1 and 10 trees. Maybe 10 if they're all very small saplings, it's a dense brush. Maybe 1 for a more sparsely vegetated forest. So 1 to 10. I can even do a low and a high here, right? So this is per 9 square feet. So I could say 1 tree per 9, or 10 per 9 square feet. And I'm actually going to make this a little easier. 9 square feet and 10 square feet don't differ substantially. So I'm going to say 1 tree per 10 square feet and 10 per 10, or 1 tree per square foot. So I'm not sure which one is the correct one. So this is my estimates. I have a size of Maine that I feel pretty good about. and then I have a lower and upper bound. So if it's 1 tree per 10 square feet, I can divide all these square feet by 10 to get the number of trees. Well, 2.8 times 10 to the 12 divided by 10 will give you 2.8 times 10 to the 11. And if there's 1 tree per square foot, then this would be the number of trees. So 2.8 times 10 to the 12. So this would be my low, this would be my high. And that's not too bad. So hundreds of billions or trillions. Now what about the end? There's of course some assumptions going on in this particular problem. And there's a number of them. One is I assumed Maine is essentially a box, right? And it's not, right? There's all this space, the ocean in Canada, but this can't be more than a factor of 2. So maybe there's a factor of 2 error there. Now, how much of Maine is forested? Well, at least half of it. Look around. There are sort of plenty of farms and roads and cities, but only the bottom half. There's not a whole lot going on in the north. So it's safe to say that at least half of Maine is forested. But maybe there's another factor of 2, but at worst a factor of 2. Probably much, much less. So this is for the shape. And worst case for percent forested, half. So another factor of 2. So that's not too bad. My biggest uncertainty comes from the density of trees. How many trees per square whatever? This is what we don't really know. Now, what are the real answers? People like to know what are the real answers. Well, if you look up the number of square miles, and so you figure out the number of square feet in Maine, you'll actually find it's 9.8 times 10 to the 11. 9's awfully close to 10. So this is about 10 to the 12 square feet. So this was pretty good. This isn't too far off. What about how much of it is forested? Well, if you do some research, 90% is forested. Not shocking, right? And then what you're left with is you're still uncertain about how many trees there are per square foot. That's up for grabs. I got bored of doing the research at some point. But this seems pretty reasonable. 1 per 10 square feet, certainly not more than 10. There might be a little less, but think about it. It's not 1 per 100 square feet, right? That would be too low on average. So what are the takeaways in this problem? 1, sometimes it's useful to approximate funny shapes by simple ones. Use your personal experiences. If you like to run or ride your bicycle or drive or whatever, what are the distances that you know? What's the exit on the interstate? How far is it to Katahdin? Have you ever driven up to Presque Isle? And any of these numbers can be helpful. And then, if you've been in the forest, think about a size that makes sense to you. This is a pretty human size when you think about it. 3 feet square is about, you can reach out and touch this really easily. So relate it to what you know and then generalize out from that. Okay, hope that was helpful.